AITA for ruining my sister's engagement by revealing her fiancé's secret nickname for her. So, this happened about a month ago, and my family still isn't speaking to me except for a couple of cousins. I, 28F, have a younger sister, Tara, 25F, who recently got engaged to her boyfriend of 3 years, Chris, 30M. On paper, Chris seems like the perfect guy. Successful, charming, polite. But I've always had this gut feeling that something was off about him. He's too smooth, if that makes sense. Like he's always performing. But my family adored him because he's stable and treats Tara like a queen, according to them. Anyway, Tara and Chris hosted an engagement party at my parents' house, and it was pretty fancy. Open bar, catered food, the works. Everyone was in a celebratory mood, and I genuinely was happy for my sister, even if I had reservations about Chris. Here's where things started to unravel. A few weeks before the party, I accidentally saw a text message on Chris's phone. It wasn't snooping. He handed me his phone to show me a video, and when he got a text, I saw the preview pop up. It was from one of his friends, and it read, "Yo, how's Marshmallow Princess doing?" LOL, I laughed and asked him, "What's that about?" And he awkwardly chuckled and said, "Oh, just a dumb nickname." I said, "That's kind of cute." And he got weirdly defensive, like it's nothing, don't overthink it. That immediately raised a red flag, but I let it go in the moment. Later that night, it bugged me enough to do a little light stalking. I looked at some of Chris's social media. He's not super private, and I found an old group photo from a ski trip he went on before meeting Tara. In the comments, someone joked, "Hope you don't bring another Marshmallow Princess next time," with laughing emojis. That was 4 years ago. So, I was curious and asked one of Chris's friends, who I happen to know from college, what the deal was with that nickname. He hesitated, but eventually told me that Marshmallow Princess was a term Chris and his friends used for overly sensitive, needy girls he dated but didn't take seriously. As in, soft, sugary, and likely to melt under pressure. It was gross. He said Chris used to call women that behind their backs when he thought they were too much emotionally. The name stuck among their group like an inside joke. And apparently, Tara is the newest one. It absolutely enraged me. My sister is sweet and trusting and yes, a little emotionally high maintenance sometimes, but she's genuine and loving. The idea that her fiancé was mocking her behind her back with this disgusting nickname made me see red. So at the engagement party, I pulled Chris aside first and gave him a chance to explain. I told him I knew what the nickname meant and that it was cruel and deceptive. He looked shocked at first, then shrugged and said, "It's just a joke between the guys. We don't mean anything by it." I asked him if Tara knew. He said no, and she wouldn't get it. That was it for me. I didn't plan to say anything at the party. I wanted to talk to Tara privately, but as the night went on and the drinks were flowing, I couldn't shake it. I watched Chris show her off to everyone like a trophy while knowing he and his friends had a mean nickname for her. I got more and more pissed. Then, during a toast, not mine, Chris jokingly referred to Tara as his little marshmallow in front of everyone. People chuckled, thinking it was sweet. Tara looked confused but smiled. That was it. I snapped. When it was my turn to give a toast, I went off script. I congratulated them, then said, "It's so heartwarming to see how much love Chris has for his Marshmallow Princess, his charming nickname for Tara. Isn't it just the cutest? Too bad it's also what he calls women he doesn't respect." The room went dead silent. Tara asked what I meant, and I explained, maybe too honestly and definitely too emotionally, what the nickname actually meant. I quoted the ski trip post, mentioned the group joke, everything. Chris tried to laugh it off and say I was jealous and making drama, but Tara just stood there stunned. She left the party within 10 minutes. Chris followed. The whole event basically ended early. Later, my parents tore into me for humiliating Tara on her special day. They said I should have told her privately, and now she's heartbroken and confused. Most of my family agrees I overstepped and made it about me. Tara won't return my calls or texts. I feel awful for the way it all went down, but I don't regret telling her the truth. Maybe my timing was wrong, but I genuinely believe she needed to know what kind of man she was about to marry. So, AITA for how I did it. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she asked me to lie to her fiancé about my past. I'm 29F, and this situation has caused a huge rift between me and my family. I'm still struggling to decide if I'm the asshole here or if I'm justified in my actions. I guess I need some outside perspective because emotions are running high. My sister, 32F, is getting married in about 2 months. She and her fiancé have been together for a little over a year. I was initially excited about the wedding and happy for her. She's always been a bit dramatic, but I never expected what came next. A little background on our relationship. My sister and I have always been close but competitive. We grew up in a household where appearances mattered a lot. Our parents emphasized keeping a perfect image to outsiders. This influenced both of us in different ways, but especially her. She's very image conscious and wants everything to look flawless. A few months ago, my sister invited me over to talk. She wanted to discuss something important about the wedding and asked me to keep it confidential. When I got there, she told me she found out about a part of my past she thinks her fiancé might find problematic. To be clear, I do have a part of my past that isn't something I'm proud of, but it's long behind me and something I've worked hard to overcome. When I was in my early 20s, I was involved in a messy relationship that ended badly, with some mistakes on my part. I struggled with trust issues and made some poor decisions. Since then, I've worked hard to rebuild my life, maintain a steady job, and keep good relationships with my family and friends. I've never hidden this part from anyone close to me who I trusted, but it's not something I bring up casually. My sister told me she told her fiancé about this past, which she had no right to do without my permission, and now he was worried and wanted me to prove that I'm trustworthy. Then she said she needed me to lie to her fiancé, to tell him that this past never happened, or to downplay it significantly because it would ruin his image of me and our family. She said if I didn't do it, the whole wedding might be at risk because her fiancé doesn't want uncertainty or people with a sketchy background involved in their lives. She wanted me to basically cover up my past for their sake. She even hinted that if I refused, it would cause drama and make me look like I'm trying to sabotage their wedding. I told her I couldn't lie to her fiancé. I think everyone deserves to know who people really are, especially when they're about to marry into a family. Plus, lying about something so serious would make me feel terrible, and it's not something I can live with. I offer to talk to him honestly, explain everything in my own words, and show that I'm a different person now. She flat out refused and said that wasn't an option. We got into a heated argument. She accused me of being selfish and not supporting her wedding, and I accused her of betraying my trust by sharing my private history without permission. She called me a drama queen and said I'm the one creating problems. Our parents got involved, mostly on her side, saying I should just go along with it for family harmony. The worst part was when she told me if I didn't comply, I wouldn't be invited to the wedding or any family events moving forward. She also said our parents agreed with her, which hurt a lot because I felt isolated. I've since decided I won't attend the wedding if I'm expected to lie or pretend to be someone I'm not. I sent a message explaining my feelings and why I can't be part of something that requires dishonesty. Since then, the family has been cold toward me, and my sister stopped speaking to me altogether. I still care about my sister, but I can't sacrifice my integrity. I'm worried I'm being too rigid or harsh, but I also feel like my family is asking too much of me. I'm stuck in this limbo of wanting to keep the peace, but not at the cost of my principles. So, AITA for refusing to lie about my past to my sister's fiancé and choosing not to attend the wedding? Or is my family justified in being upset with me? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she demanded I cut my fiancé out of the guest list because he doesn't fit the vibe. This all started about 6 months ago, and honestly, it's been driving me crazy. I'm 29F. My sister, who's 32F, is getting married next month. We've always had a pretty decent relationship, sometimes a bit competitive, but nothing major. She's always been the perfect older sister type, organized, charismatic, and very social. I'm more introverted and have always admired her ability to pull people together. I got engaged about a year ago to my fiancé, 31M. He's amazing, kind, supportive, and really my best friend. He's a bit of an introvert like me, but also has a quirky, dry sense of humor that I adore. We've been together for 5 years, and he's met most of my family, including my sister. She's met him a few times at family gatherings and was always polite, but never super warm or inviting toward him. So, fast forward to the wedding planning. My sister has been very vocal about how she wants her wedding to be a magical, elegant affair and how every detail matters, from the flowers to the guest list. She's invited a lot of friends and extended family, some people I barely know, but she apparently has a close bond with. About 3 months ago, she pulled me aside after a family dinner and said she needed to talk about the wedding guest list. I thought maybe she had questions or concerns about seating or something, but instead, she told me that she didn't want my fiancé there. I was stunned. I asked why, genuinely confused, and she said it was because he doesn't fit the vibe of the wedding. She said he's too quiet, doesn't engage well with people, and that having him there would bring down the energy. She also mentioned she was worried he'd be bored and that it would be awkward for everyone. I was speechless. I tried to explain that he's my fiancé and that the wedding is a huge milestone for both of us, but she insisted. She said if he came, she would consider it disrespectful to her and the guests. I asked if maybe he could just come for the ceremony and not the reception, but she said no. She even suggested that if he came, I should respect her wishes by not bringing him at all. I told her that wasn't something I could agree to. She's my sister, and I want to support her, but my fiancé is my partner, and it's important to me that he be there for the wedding. I told her we would attend as a couple or not at all. That's when things started to get really tense. She told me that if I didn't come without him, then she didn't want me there at all. She framed it as if I was choosing him over family. I was hurt and upset. I love my sister, and I want to be part of her big day, but I don't want to disrespect my fiancé or make him feel excluded. I talked to my parents, hoping they would mediate, but they sided with my sister, saying it's her day and her rules, and that I should just try to respect that. They also suggested maybe I could attend alone, but I said that wasn't fair to me or my fiancé. I reached out to a few other family members, and the opinions were mixed. Some thought my sister was being unreasonable. Others said she was justified since it's her wedding and she can decide who comes. The thing is, my sister has always been a bit controlling when it comes to events and family gatherings, but this felt different, more personal. Last week, I told my sister we wouldn't be attending if my fiancé wasn't invited, and she responded by uninviting me altogether. She said she didn't want a half-hearted sister at her wedding. At this point, I'm devastated. I feel like I'm being punished for something that's out of my control. My fiancé isn't a party animal or rude. He's just quieter than the other guests, but he's warm and kind. My friends have been supportive, telling me my sister is being unreasonable, but my parents keep pushing me to apologize or make peace by going solo. I'm stuck because I don't want to lose my sister over this, but I also can't imagine showing up without my fiancé, who is my partner in every way. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she refuses to invite my fiancé? Or is my sister justified in wanting her wedding to have a certain vibe, even if that means excluding my fiancé? AITA for refusing to let my sister stay at my house after she repeatedly disrespected my boundaries and caused chaos during her visit? So, this is a long story, and I've been sitting on it for a while, trying to figure out if I'm really the asshole here or if I'm justified in how I handled things. I, 32F, live in a modest 2-bedroom apartment in a decent neighborhood. I work full-time as a software developer, and I'm pretty independent. I'm generally a pretty chill person, but I have clear boundaries and expectations, especially when it comes to my home and personal space. My sister, 28F, has always been the more impulsive and dramatic one between us. She's had a rough patch in life with unstable jobs and relationships, and has asked to stay with me off and on over the last few years. I've always tried to be supportive and welcoming, but each time she stayed, it ended up being a huge headache for me. The last straw was a few months ago, and that's when I refused to let her stay anymore. Here's what happened. About 6 months ago, my sister called me in a panic. She just lost her job and was being evicted from her apartment. She had nowhere else to go and asked if she could crash with me for a while until she got back on her feet. I felt bad, so I agreed, but only for 2 weeks, making it very clear up front that it was temporary and that she had to respect my rules. When she arrived, things quickly started going downhill. For starters, she brought a ton of stuff, way more than she could reasonably fit in my tiny apartment. She insisted on having her own space, so she basically turned my guest room into a chaotic mess of clothes, junk food wrappers, and random boxes. I asked her to keep it tidy, but it never got better. She also started inviting friends over constantly without telling me. At first, it was just a couple of people hanging out in the living room, but then it turned into parties late at night. I work early in the morning and need quiet, but she didn't care. When I asked her to tone it down, she got defensive and said I was being controlling. But the worst part was the way she treated my things and my space. She borrowed my clothes without asking, used up all my groceries without replacing them, and left dirty dishes piled up for days. When I brought it up, she'd either ignore me or snap at me for being too uptight. One weekend, she had a huge gathering, probably 10 people, packed into my small living room, blasting music and drinking. I asked her multiple times to turn it down and keep the noise down for my neighbors. She shouted back at me, saying it was her time to have fun and I should just deal with it. I was furious, but I tried to keep my cool. Then, the next morning, I found out she had left my bathroom a complete disaster. Clogged toilet from flushing random things, trash everywhere, and even some makeup stains on the walls. I confronted her about it, and she acted like I was overreacting. Things got so bad that I started avoiding being home whenever she was there. I slept on the couch, ate out more, and even took some vacation days just to get away. I realized that my home, which used to be my safe space, had turned into a stressful environment I dreaded. After 2 weeks, I told her that her stay was over and she needed to find another place. She begged me for more time, crying and promising she'd change, but I wasn't having it. I needed my life back. She left, but not before leaving me with a big mess and some broken things she claimed she didn't break. I cleaned up and tried to move on. Here's where things get complicated. A few weeks later, my sister reached out again, saying she was in trouble and needed to come back. I told her no. She called me selfish, unkind, and said I was abandoning her in her worst moments. I said that she had to respect my decision and that I wasn't comfortable having her stay anymore. She then spread the story to our family, painting me as a cold sister who kicked her out when she was down. Some relatives have been siding with her, saying I should help family no matter what. Others agree with me that I'm not responsible for fixing her life or tolerating disrespect in my own home. I am honestly torn. On one hand, I feel guilty for not being there for my sister when she's struggling. On the other, I feel like she took advantage of my kindness, showed no respect, and made my home a nightmare. So, Reddit, am I the asshole for refusing to let my sister stay at my place after everything that happened? Or was I justified in protecting my boundaries and my mental health? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's behavior? So, this is a long one, and I'm still wrestling with whether I'm being unreasonable or not. I, 32F, have a younger sister, 28F, who I've always been close to, or so I thought. Our family dynamic is complicated, but up until recently, I genuinely enjoyed spending time with her and supporting her through various life events. About 6 months ago, she introduced me to her fiancé, Mark, 30M. I have to admit, my first impressions weren't great, but I brushed it off, thinking maybe he was just nervous or shy. As time went on, though, Mark's behavior toward me and others started to raise serious red flags. Mark is charming on the surface, but once you get to know him, he's controlling, condescending, and downright rude. The first major incident was at a family dinner shortly after their engagement announcement. Mark took over the conversation, dismissing anyone who disagreed with him and making snide remarks about my career choices. I'm a freelance graphic designer, which he repeatedly called unstable and a waste of potential. I tried to stay calm and avoid conflict, but my sister didn't seem to notice or care. Over the next few months, the pattern continued. Mark would make passive-aggressive comments about my lifestyle, belittle my achievements, and exclude me from conversations when we were all together. My sister either laughed these things off or told me I was overreacting. I started feeling unwelcome and upset every time we got together, but I kept attending family events out of respect for my sister. Then came the wedding planning, which turned into a nightmare. Mark insisted on having a small and intimate ceremony, which basically meant excluding a lot of people, including most of my family and friends. My sister said this was Mark's way of keeping things simple, and I didn't push back. But when the guest list was finalized, I found out I wasn't invited at all. I confronted my sister about it, and she told me that Mark didn't want any drama at the wedding and that they were focusing on close friends and immediate family. I pointed out that I'm her sister and part of her immediate family, but she said they had to make tough choices and hoped I understood. This really hurt. I've been a big part of her life, supported her through breakups, job changes, and personal struggles. Being cut out of her wedding felt like a betrayal. I told her I couldn't attend if Mark was going to treat me this way, and I would be happy to celebrate with her afterward, but I wasn't going to pretend everything was fine. Since then, my sister has been cold and distant. She's told mutual family members that I'm being dramatic and jealous, and she's refused to have any direct conversations with me about it. My parents are caught in the middle, trying to keep peace, but clearly upset by the tension. Now, the wedding is 2 weeks away, and I've made it clear I won't be attending. My sister has blocked me on social media and hasn't responded to my texts. I'm torn because I love my sister and want to be part of her big day, but I also don't want to accept disrespect from her fiancé or be treated like I don't matter. So, Reddit, am I the asshole for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of how her fiancé treats me and for being excluded from the guest list? Or should I swallow my pride for the sake of family and just go? I'm really struggling to figure out if I'm overreacting or if I'm justified in standing my ground. AITA for refusing to let my sister's wedding turn into a family circus, even if it meant losing her forever. So, this is going to be a bit long, but I'll try to give all the necessary details. I, 32M, come from a fairly close-knit family, at least we used to be. My younger sister, Emily, 28F, is getting married in about 3 months, and the whole situation has spiraled into something I never expected. I'm still trying to process everything, but I need some outside perspective. A little background. Emily and I have always been pretty close growing up, though we had our sibling spats like any others. We're pretty different. She's very extroverted, dramatic, and thrives on attention, whereas I'm more reserved and low-key. We never really clashed over anything serious until recently. Emily got engaged last year to Mark, who I'll admit is a nice guy, but he's also kind of a pushover and tends to go along with whatever Emily wants. She's always been a bit controlling, but I figured this was just the usual wedding stress. I was wrong. The main problem started with the wedding guest list and her family drama. Our parents are divorced, and Emily and I have very different relationships with them. Our dad is difficult. He's narcissistic, very controlling, and often makes everything about himself. Emily barely talks to him, and I haven't spoken to him in years. Our mom is supportive, but can be manipulative in her own way. Emily wanted the wedding to be this huge, glamorous event with hundreds of guests. People from our extended family, friends from childhood, distant relatives she's barely met, plus her work friends, and so on. I was fine with that in theory, but as the plans went on, I realized she wanted to invite everyone except the people I consider close friends or even people I'm comfortable around. She said she wanted the right vibe and didn't want unnecessary drama. But honestly, I think she was just trying to control everything and exclude me. For instance, I asked if I could invite a few friends of mine who have been important in my life and even helped me through tough times. Emily outright refused, saying they wouldn't fit with the aesthetic and would make her guests uncomfortable. That hurt, but I let it slide at first. The bigger issue came when she decided she wanted the ceremony to be completely drama-free by banning our dad and his side of the family entirely. I get it to some extent. Our dad can be a nightmare, but completely cutting off half the family without talking to me about it? I felt blindsided. When I confronted her, Emily said it was her day and she had every right to decide who was there. She even suggested that if I wanted my dad there, I should pay for a separate celebration. That was the moment I realized this wasn't about the wedding anymore. It was about her trying to rewrite family dynamics on her terms and punishing people who didn't agree with her. I tried to explain to her that family is complicated, and while I don't have a perfect relationship with Dad either, excluding half the family would cause a lot of pain and long-term damage. She brushed me off, saying I was being selfish and ruining her special day. Things escalated when I found out she was planning to invite a distant cousin, Jessica, who is known for stirring up drama and has a history of getting blackout drunk at family events and causing fights. Emily told me Jessica was family and couldn't be excluded despite knowing how much tension she causes. When I questioned this, she snapped and said I was being hypocritical because I was excluding my own friends. I felt like the whole wedding was turning into a power play, and I didn't want to be part of it. So I told Emily I wouldn't attend if Dad and his side of the family weren't allowed. I also said I wouldn't bring any friends if they weren't welcomed either, and I wouldn't be part of any events that excluded people I care about. The fallout was immediate. Emily blocked me on social media, told our mom I was being dramatic and selfish, and suddenly our entire family was split into camps. Some think I'm overreacting, others sympathize but say I should just let her have her day. It's been weeks since that confrontation. I miss my sister, and I wish we could find some middle ground. But she refuses to budge and seems determined to turn this wedding into her personal stage, no matter who it hurts. AITA for standing my ground, even if it means missing my sister's wedding? Or should I just suck it up for one day and pretend everything's okay? AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her kids to my wedding even though she's devastated and accusing me of being selfish? So, this is a pretty long and complicated family drama, and I'm still torn about how I handled it. But honestly, I'm leaning towards thinking I did the right thing. A little background. I, 29F, have always been close to my younger sister, Emma, 26F, but we're very different people. She's a single mom to 2 kids, a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. I, on the other hand, have been very focused on my career and planning a very specific kind of wedding with my fiancé, James, 32M. James and I have been together for 5 years, and when we got engaged last year, we immediately agreed on one thing. We wanted a child-free wedding. No kids, no babies, just adults. We wanted the atmosphere to be relaxed, without parents running after their kids or noisy distractions during the ceremony. We talked about this with both of our families early on to set expectations. I booked a beautiful venue, an elegant historic mansion with strict rules about noise and capacity. And from the start, it was clear that children wouldn't be allowed. The venue staff even told me that they don't accommodate kids under 12 for liability reasons. We were also planning a late evening ceremony with a cocktail reception and alcohol flowing freely, so it was really not the place for kids. Emma immediately started pushing back when I told her no kids. She said that her kids are well-behaved and that she's not leaving them behind, and that it's unfair I'm excluding them. I tried to explain the venue rules, but she was adamant that I was being selfish and that she'd make it work. She insisted that she's the only sibling with children, so excluding her kids felt like I was excluding her from the family experience. She even hinted that it felt like I didn't want her or her family to be part of this important day. I felt awful about it because I do love her and her kids, but I also had to respect the venue and our own wishes for the day. James and I agreed that it would be unfair to make exceptions just because it's my sister. If we allowed her kids, we'd have to allow every kid, which would completely change the nature of the event. We gave Emma options. She could hire a babysitter, or we would help cover the cost of a professional nanny at the venue if she wanted, but the kids themselves wouldn't be allowed to attend. Emma rejected those ideas outright. She said babysitters were expensive and she couldn't afford it, and that it was unreasonable to expect her to pay extra just to attend a wedding. A few months went by with tense conversations, and I tried to smooth things over by inviting her and the kids to the rehearsal dinner, which was kid-friendly and at a casual restaurant. She seemed happy about that, but kept saying it wasn't the same as being at the wedding itself. Fast forward to 2 weeks before the wedding. Emma sent me a long message accusing me of being cold and selfish and putting my own desires ahead of my family. She said she was devastated that her kids weren't allowed and that it's not a real family celebration without them. She also mentioned that James's family has kids who will be there, and that made her feel singled out. Side note, James's niece is 13 and considered old enough by the venue, so that was the only child attending. I responded honestly, reiterating the venue rules and our reasons, but she accused me of making excuses and not caring about her feelings. At this point, my parents got involved. They sided mostly with me, saying it's reasonable to have a child-free wedding, but they also felt I could have been more empathetic and maybe helped Emma find a way to bring the kids. I'm stuck because I want my wedding day to be special and stress-free, but I also don't want to alienate my sister. She's been somewhat distant since then, and I don't know if she'll even come to the wedding. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her kids to my wedding, even though it's really important to her, and she's hurt by it? Or was I right to stand firm on the child-free policy for the sake of the event and venue rules? AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé bring his dog to our wedding after he insisted it was non-negotiable? I, 29F, have been engaged to my fiancé, Mike, 32M, for about a year now. We started planning our wedding early this year, hoping to have it sometime next summer. From the very beginning, I made it clear that I wanted a traditional ceremony without pets involved. I grew up in a family where weddings were serious, elegant affairs, and while I love animals, I didn't want them to overshadow the day or cause any chaos. My younger sister, Emma, 26F, got engaged a few months after we did. She's marrying her fiancé, Jake, 30M, later this year. Emma and I are close, but can have our differences, mostly about how we approach things like social events. She's very laid back and often says that weddings should be fun and informal, which is fine, but I wanted something more structured. Jake has a dog named Cooper, a very energetic and loud Labrador. When Emma and Jake got engaged, they decided to bring Cooper everywhere because they treat him like their child. Emma mentioned in passing that Jake hoped he could bring Cooper to our wedding, saying he was part of their family and should be included. At first, I didn't think much of it and just nodded politely, thinking they wouldn't push the issue. Fast forward a few months, and wedding planning is in full swing. I have chosen a venue, the caterer, the dress, and the entire vibe of the event is formal and elegant. Mike and I have also decided on a guest list that includes mostly family and close friends. Emma and Jake are invited, of course, but no plus ones beyond that. One day, Emma calls me out of the blue, very frustrated. She says Jake is adamant that Cooper come to the wedding and that she's caught in the middle because she wants to keep me happy, but also supports Jake. She tells me Jake says that if Cooper isn't allowed, he might skip the wedding entirely. This really threw me off because it seemed like such a small thing to cause drama over, but I stood my ground. I explained that the venue has strict policies against animals due to allergies and insurance issues. The space is beautiful, but isn't pet-friendly, and I also don't want to risk Cooper causing any disruptions during the ceremony or reception. I told Emma that while I understand Cooper is important to them, the wedding is a human celebration, and I'm not willing to compromise on that. Emma responded by accusing me of being cold and not understanding the bond they have with their dog. She says that Jake feels like I'm disrespecting his family by excluding Cooper. I offered alternatives like having a photo booth with pictures of Cooper or including a special mention in the program, but Jake was not satisfied. Then, things got messy. Emma started posting subtle, passive-aggressive comments on social media about some people being inflexible and not valuing what family means. I tried reaching out to her to smooth things over, but she kept insisting that I needed to see it from their side and that Mike was being unreasonable for supporting me. Mike has been great throughout this, backing my decisions and reminding me that it's our day and we should set the rules. Still, I feel guilty that this has caused a rift with Emma, who I want to be close to. The rest of our family is divided. Some think I'm being too rigid. Others say it's my right to have the wedding I want. The final straw was last week when Emma told me she might bring Cooper anyway and leave him in the car if necessary. I immediately said no. No pets anywhere near the venue, not even outside. She then threatened to skip the wedding if I kept this up. At this point, I don't know what to do. I'm torn between standing firm and trying to keep peace. AITA for refusing to let Jake bring his dog to my wedding? Should I just cave to avoid losing my sister on such an important day? Hey friends, If you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé move into my house when she's supposed to be living there too. I, 32F, live in a large 3-bedroom house in a moderately expensive neighborhood. I bought the house about 5 years ago, and it's been my sanctuary and my pride ever since. I live here with my younger sister, Emily, 28F, who moved in about 6 months ago after a really messy breakup and a stint living with a friend who was not treating her well. I love Emily, and when she asked if she could move in with me temporarily while she got back on her feet, I didn't hesitate to say yes. The plan was simple. She'd stay for a few months, find a job, and then either rent her own place or move in with her fiancé. Here's where things get messy. Emily has been engaged for about a year to a guy named Jason, 30M. They've been dating for almost 5 years. Jason and I have never really gotten along, but I tolerated it because I knew he made her happy, or so I thought. When Emily moved in, Jason was mostly staying at his own place. I barely saw him. Fast forward to about 2 months ago, Emily tells me that Jason wants to move in with us for a while because his apartment is being renovated. She says it's temporary and that he'll only stay for a couple of weeks, which I reluctantly agreed to since it wouldn't be forever. But the couple of weeks stretched into 6 weeks, and Jason started acting like he owned the place. He left his stuff all over the house, monopolized the living room TV, and even took over the garage space I'd been using for storage. I finally sat Emily down and told her that I was uncomfortable with Jason living here indefinitely. She insisted that he wasn't being a burden and that I was overreacting. She also mentioned that since they're engaged, it was only natural he'd be around more, and that it would help them save money for their wedding. I told her that saving money is one thing, but this is my house, and I never agreed to sharing it permanently with Jason. She said she understood, but also that I was being selfish and making her feel unwelcome in her own home. Emily reminded me that the house is big enough and that if I cared about her, I'd make room for Jason. I stood firm, explaining that my boundaries were being crossed and that I felt like my space was being invaded. She accused me of not wanting her to be happy and trying to control her life. I felt awful because I never wanted to cause a rift with her, but I also didn't want to lose control over my own home. The tension escalated. Emily started spending more time at Jason's place, and our conversations became shorter and more strained. I thought things might cool down after a few weeks, but then she told me that they were planning to move in together permanently, and that she wanted to give me at least a month's notice to find a new living arrangement. She said she didn't think it was fair for Jason to live here temporarily only to move out again soon, and that it made more sense for her to move out and start fresh with him. I told her that I was blindsided. I never expected her to move out so abruptly, and I didn't have anywhere else to go right now. I also felt that she was making a big decision without talking to me about it properly, given that this is my house and I had been supporting her during a difficult time. She responded that she had every right to decide where she lives and that I was being unreasonable. Jason even chimed in, saying that since Emily was an adult, she should be free to make her own choices, and that I was being territorial over a house I bought without family in mind. That comment hurt. I reminded him that this wasn't a hotel or a shared apartment. It was my home, and I'd been kind enough to let Emily stay here. I said that if they wanted to move in together, they should find a place that was theirs. Emily then said that she was done living with me if I didn't accept Jason, and that she'd find somewhere else to live permanently. This sounded fine in theory, but I knew she'd be scrambling for months to find a place she could afford on her own, and I worried about her and Jason's financial situation. Plus, I still want to have a relationship with her, and this all felt so painful and divisive. At this point, our relationship feels strained. I love my sister and want her to be happy, but I feel like she and Jason don't respect my boundaries or the fact that this is my home. I'm not trying to be cruel. I just want to feel comfortable in my own space. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé move in here, and for wanting her to discuss such big decisions with me. Should I just give in and let them move in permanently? Or am I right to protect my boundaries in my home? AITA for canceling Thanksgiving dinner after my family wouldn't include my wife in the photo album. So this all blew up last weekend, and I still feel like I'm in a weird fog. I'm a 36-year-old guy, married to my wife, Tessa, 34F, for 4 years. We've been together 7 in total. Tessa is amazing, smart, introverted but warm once you know her, and someone who keeps to herself in big groups but tries to be polite and present. She's not a huge fan of big family gatherings, especially with my family, who are a lot, loud, traditional, and very much about appearances. But she's always made an effort. She goes to every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, every birthday, even if she's uncomfortable. Now, my family has this tradition of making these huge, elaborate photo albums every few years. Like hundreds of printed photos arranged by event, location, or holiday, often with notes. It's kind of sweet and sentimental. My mom is obsessed with them. She's made 6 volumes since I was a kid. The 7th was just completed and debuted this past weekend when we all went over to my parents' house to celebrate fall. Read, an excuse for my mom to show off her photo albums and her house decorations. So we're flipping through the new album, and I noticed something weird. There are pictures of our family trip to the lake from last summer. My wife came on that trip. There were at least 10 photos I personally remember taking of her with me, with my nephews, or just with the group. None of them are in the album. Like, she's missing completely. I flip a few more pages. My brother's girlfriend, who he's only been dating for a year, is in 3 full pages of their beach weekend. My sister's husband is in dozens. I start really looking and realize my wife is absent from almost every group event. Thanksgiving last year? Cropped out. Birthday party for my dad? There's a group photo where she was standing next to me, but it's zoomed so tight on me you'd think I was alone. A wedding we went to as a family? She's not in a single shot, even though she sat at the family table. At first, I thought maybe it was a weird coincidence or just bad selection. But then I flipped back and saw a photo I took when I posted on my Instagram of me and Tessa at the pumpkin patch. In the album, it's the same photo, but she's cropped out. Just me smiling by a hay bale. It was clearly intentional. I asked my mom, very calmly, why Tessa isn't in any of the photos. She said, "Oh, I just picked the best ones, don't read into it." I pressed a bit more, and she finally said, "Well, she's never really blended with the family." I wanted the album to feel cohesive. Not awkward. Not awkward. She thought my wife made the album awkward. I said, "So you deliberately removed or excluded photos with my wife because she's not chatty enough for you?" My mom said, "Don't be dramatic. It's my album. I get to decide what memories I want to include." I just said, "Cool. Then I'll decide who I spend Thanksgiving with." And we left. Later that night, I emailed my family and said that Tessa and I would not be attending Thanksgiving this year or any more family events until they can show my wife some basic respect. I didn't name anyone or go into details, but I made it clear this was not up for debate. Well, now I'm getting hammered with texts. My brother said I'm blowing this out of proportion and that it's just pictures. My sister told me I'm punishing everyone for my wife being socially weird. Yes, she wrote that. My dad asked if I was really skipping our last Thanksgiving altogether before Grandma goes into assisted living. Even my cousins are texting me asking what happened. My mom, meanwhile, sent me a long email saying she's heartbroken that I'd turned my back on family over a creative project and that she never meant to hurt Tessa, but she also has to be true to the spirit of the family. That line made me furious, as if my wife, who I've loved and lived with for years, is somehow outside the spirit of the family. Tessa, for her part, was quiet about it all. She told me I didn't have to cancel, and that she's used to being overlooked. That just made it worse. I don't want her to ever feel like that around my family again. But now I'm sitting here feeling like I've gone nuclear over what my family is calling a minor slight. They say it's not like they insulted her or told her not to come. They just didn't feel she fit the aesthetic of the album. I honestly don't even know what to do. I miss my family, I really do. But I can't let them treat my wife like some accessory they can crop out when it doesn't match the decor. I also don't want to be the guy who ruins a family holiday over photos. AITA for canceling Thanksgiving with my family over this. AITA for refusing to let my sister walk down the aisle at my wedding because she brought her son after I asked her not to. I, 29F, got married 3 weeks ago to my husband, 32M. It was a smallish wedding, about 70 people, and we put a lot of work into it. We paid for about 80% of it ourselves, with a small contribution from my in-laws and my parents paying for the flowers and cake. My husband and I aren't wealthy, so we were really careful about guest lists, seating, and budget. It took us almost 2 years to plan, mostly because of finances. My sister, 34F, has a son, Jaden, 6M, who I love but who has some very disruptive behavioral issues. He has not been formally diagnosed, but she frequently says he's spirited and expresses himself freely. This has led to many difficult situations: tantrums in public, screaming, throwing things when he doesn't like what he hears, and once even biting another kid at a family birthday party. I love my nephew. I've babysat him more times than I can count. I've also been puked on, hit, and locked in a bathroom while watching him. So when we started planning the wedding, I made the incredibly hard decision to have a child-free ceremony and dinner, with the exception of 2 nursing infants on my husband's side who would be held by their mothers the entire time. I talked to my sister about this decision over a year before the wedding. She was very upset. She cried, said it was exclusionary, said Jaden would be heartbroken not to see his aunt get married. I was sympathetic and told her that we'd love for her to come solo or bring a friend or her boyfriend or anyone else to help babysit. I even offered to pay for a hotel babysitter through the venue for the evening if she needed someone she could trust. She said she'd think about it. Months passed, and we had multiple discussions. Each time, she asked if I would reconsider. Each time, I gently but firmly said no. I reminded her how difficult the ceremony would be to manage if he had one of his episodes and said I really wanted the day to go smoothly. She never confirmed whether she was coming until the week of the wedding. She said she had found a sitter and would be coming alone. Fast forward to the wedding day. Everything is going smoothly. I'm nervous and emotional and trying to keep it together before the ceremony. I'm standing just outside the hall where we're getting married, dressed and waiting to go in. My bridesmaids are lined up. Music is starting. Then I hear a child yelling. It's Jaden. He's shouting something like, "I want to go first." And then he starts crying loudly. My heart sank. I asked one of my bridesmaids to check. She comes back pale and says, "She brought him. Your sister brought Jaden, and she's holding his hand like she's about to walk down the aisle." I walk out and see my sister in her bridesmaid dress, holding Jaden by the hand. He's clearly agitated. He's in a tiny tux, holding a toy car, and he's already trying to run up toward the ceremony area. I pulled her aside and said, "What are you doing? You told me you got a sitter." She said the sitter canceled last minute and she didn't want to miss the wedding, and she figured since it was family, I wouldn't mind just this once. I told her I was sorry, but she couldn't walk in the ceremony with him. She had 2 options: let someone at the venue staff watch him in the bridal suite, or leave. She refused both options. She said I was overreacting and that he would behave if I just stopped making such a big deal. Meanwhile, Jaden starts wailing again, stomping his feet. I told her she was not walking down the aisle with him, and that if she insisted, she wouldn't be part of the wedding at all. She accused me of humiliating her and ruining the day for no reason. I snapped. I told her this was exactly why I hadn't wanted him there, and that I couldn't believe she lied and tried to sneak him in. She left in tears. Jaden was screaming. A groomsman's girlfriend ended up helping her out of the venue. The ceremony was delayed 15 minutes while I tried to compose myself. My parents were upset with her, but told me later I should have just let it go in the moment and addressed it after. They said it was supposed to be a happy day, and it ended up being marred by family drama. A few other guests commented that it was sad she wasn't in any of the official photos. My sister hasn't spoken to me since. She skipped the reception entirely. My husband and bridal party have all reassured me I did the right thing. They saw how hard I try to set boundaries ahead of time. But I keep replaying the moment in my head. Did I overreact? Should I have just let her walk and dealt with whatever chaos happened? AITA for telling my sister she can't live with me after she burned a major bridge for me? I'm 32F, and my younger sister Jenna, 27F, and I have always had a complicated relationship. We grew up in a messy household. Our mom passed when we were both young, and our dad was emotionally unavailable at best and verbally abusive at worst. Because I was older, a lot of responsibility fell on me. I cooked, I cleaned, I got Jenna ready for school, helped her with homework, basically became a parent at 11. And to be honest, I resented her for a long time. Not because of anything she did, but because I never got to be a kid. Fast forward to our 20s. I moved out at 18 and worked my way through college, mostly alone. Jenna stayed with Dad until she was 21, and when things got really bad, I helped her move out and let her crash with me for 6 months while she got on her feet. I thought it would be a fresh start for both of us. It wasn't. Living with Jenna was chaos. She'd use my things without asking, throw parties on weeknights. I worked full-time and borrowed money without returning it. She got a part-time job, but didn't keep it for long. I finally had to kick her out after she got drunk one night and smashed a mirror in my apartment during an argument. I told her I loved her, but I needed boundaries. We didn't speak for almost a year after that. Eventually, we started talking again, tentatively. Over time, we rebuilt a surface-level relationship. Occasional dinners, birthday calls, liking each other's posts. I kept her at arm's length, but I still want to be a good sister. Now here's where it all blew up. I've worked for a well-known marketing agency for 7 years. It's a competitive industry, and getting into a leadership role as a woman hasn't been easy. I've had to swallow a lot, work late hours, and play nice with people I don't like. But recently, I got offered a promotion that would put me in charge of an entire regional team. Huge step up. The only thing left was a final internal panel interview. Jenna, who's been unemployed for a while, called me the night before the interview asking to borrow money for rent. Again, I was already stressed, and I told her no, firmly but politely. I reminded her I've helped her financially in the past and said I couldn't do it this time. She got upset, called me selfish, and hung up on me. I thought that was the end of it. The next day, I go into the office for the interview. Everything seems normal until I sit down with the panel, my boss, 2 senior managers, and our HR rep. And the atmosphere is weird. They're being cold, professional in a way that felt off. Halfway through, my boss brings up a personal concern and says there have been questions raised about my judgment outside of work. I'm blindsided. Turns out, Jenna sent an email the night before, pretending to be a concerned acquaintance, accusing me of unethical behavior. She wrote this long, dramatic message about how I'd been exploiting vulnerable family members for financial gain, and how I had a history of emotional manipulation. She even mentioned a fabricated incident about me forcing her to sign over a car title. It was obvious to me that she wrote it, but she used a burner email and changed the names, so they couldn't be sure. I sat there, trying to defend myself in a professional setting from accusations that were completely made up. I felt humiliated. HR said they'd investigate further, but the damage was done. I didn't get the promotion. When I confronted Jenna, she didn't even deny it. She told me she was desperate, that I always act like I'm better than everyone, and that she just wanted me to feel how she feels. I was speechless. I told her she had officially destroyed the last bit of trust one had in her and to never contact me again. That was 3 months ago. Last week, Jenna showed up at my apartment with a duffel bag. She'd been evicted, had nowhere else to go, and wanted to stay with me just for a little while. I closed the door in her face. The messages started the next day. From her, from mutual friends, even from my dad, who I'm mostly no contact with, saying I was being cruel, that family doesn't abandon each other, that Jen is struggling and I'm doing well, so I should help. Some of my friends say I'm justified, but others are saying I should be the bigger person since she's clearly not in a good place mentally. I don't know anymore. I keep going over everything in my head. Was it cold to leave her outside like that? Should I have at least let her in for a night and helped her find a shelter or something? Did I let my resentment get in the way? But then I think about everything I've lost because of her. The promotion, my credibility at work, the years of trying to mend things and give her chance after chance. And I wonder, what's the point of being the bigger person if it just gives her another chance to destroy more? So Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister stay with me after she sabotaged my promotion. AITA for refusing to let my sister and her kids move into my house after she sold our childhood home without telling me. I'm a 32-year-old woman, and this all blew up about 3 weeks ago. So backstory first. My sister Claire, 36F, and I grew up in a big old farmhouse that's been in our family for 4 generations. When our parents died in a car accident 8 years ago, Claire and I inherited the house together, 50-50ths. She had just gone through a nasty divorce and had 2 young kids, so she moved in. I lived nearby, had a steady job, and helped out financially with upkeep, even though I wasn't living there. Over the years, I paid for half the property taxes, repairs, roof replacement, and more. Claire always promised we'd split everything equally if we ever sold it. That was always the understanding. Fast forward to last month. I get a call from Claire asking if she and the kids can stay with me for a while because she's in between places. I'm surprised. She never mentioned moving. I ask what happened, and she tells me she sold the house. I thought she was joking. She wasn't. I demanded to know how she sold it without my signature, since I legally own half. She got really quiet and then confessed that 6 years ago, she had me sign some paperwork that I thought was just for refinancing. Turns out she had somehow transferred the full deed into her name. To be clear, I had no idea what I signed. I know, I should have read it more carefully, but I trusted her. She was my sister, and I never imagined she'd do something like this. She told me she got an offer from a developer who's been buying up land in the area, and they paid above market. She said she needed a fresh start, and that the kids deserved better schools and a newer place. But now the closing is done. She has no place to go because the condo she planned to buy fell through. She's suddenly broke, homeless, and asking to live with me. I said no. I told her I wasn't comfortable letting her or the kids stay with me after what she did. I feel betrayed and furious. She not only sold what was partially my property, she also tricked me into giving up ownership and never even told me until it was too late. Claire started crying, saying she's my sister and the kids, 9 and 11, shouldn't have to suffer because of a misunderstanding. I snapped and said it wasn't a misunderstanding, it was fraud, and I wasn't going to reward her for screwing me over. She left and started texting me nonstop. I blocked her. Then I started getting messages from family, cousins, an aunt, even Claire's ex-husband, saying I was heartless for leaving her and the kids without a home. That family is family, and I have more than enough space. I live in a 3-bedroom house by myself. Here's where I might be the a-hole. I do have space. I could let them stay for a while. But the thought of her under my roof, after what she did, makes me sick. It feels like letting a thief stay in my home. Plus, I'm terrified she'll pull something again, like fake mail or getting squatters' rights if she stays too long. I consulted a lawyer, and they confirmed that undoing the sale would be an expensive and messy legal battle with no guarantee of success. The statute of limitations on contesting the deed transfer may already be passed. What stings the most is the house was the last piece of our parents. Their bedrooms still had their old furniture, their handwriting in the margins of cookbooks in the kitchen. I didn't just lose property, I lost a physical connection to them. And Claire sold it like it was a used car. Some relatives say I'm punishing her kids for her mistakes. That I should let them crash in my guest rooms while Claire figures things out. But I don't see how I can trust her again. And honestly, I don't want her in my space. So now I'm stuck between feeling like I'm doing the right thing by standing up for myself and feeling like an absolute monster for refusing to help my nieces when they didn't do anything wrong. AITA? AITA for refusing to pay for my sister's wedding after she uninvited my wife. I'm a 34-year-old guy, married to my wife, Anna, 36, for 5 years. We've been together for 9. My younger sister, Emily, 29, recently got engaged to her long-term boyfriend, Tom. They're planning a fairly lavish wedding next spring. Here's where things get complicated. My family is big on traditions. My parents are conservative, but not in a political way, more like they're obsessed with appearances and social rules. They've always liked Anna, but have also had this underlying judgmental tone when it comes to her. Anna is a tattoo artist, dresses in an alternative style, think lots of black, piercings, colorful hair, and is very outspoken. She's also the kindest, most genuine person I've ever known. Emily and I have had a decent relationship, but we were never super close. She's always been the golden child, the quiet, people-pleasing daughter who followed the path our parents laid out. College, career, engaged to a lawyer, etc. I went the other way. I joined a band after high school, traveled, didn't go to college, worked random jobs until I settled into IT, and married Anna. My parents tolerated me, but never really praised my life the way they did Emily's. About 6 months ago, Emily came to me and asked if I would help finance her wedding. She said that with costs going up, she and Tom were struggling to make the day what they'd envisioned. Our parents had already committed a significant chunk, but they weren't willing to pay more. Since Anna and I don't have kids and make decent money, Emily assumed we could help. Now, I'm not made of money, but I'm doing well. Anna and I had talked about maybe paying for a vacation this year or finally renovating our kitchen. Still, I said I'd contribute $10,000 as a wedding gift. I told her it came with one condition, that Anna and I were both treated like any other guests. Emily said of course, and thanked me profusely. Fast forward to last month. Anna and I attended Emily's bridal shower. It was a bit stiff, very Pinterest-y, and most of the guests were from Tom's side. Anna wore a black floral dress and had recently dyed her hair purple. She was polite, brought a really thoughtful gift, and helped clean up afterward. The next day, I got a call from my mother. She said she didn't want to upset me, but some of the guests had felt that Anna drew too much attention and that her look didn't align with the aesthetic Emily was going for. I asked her what the hell that meant, and she backpedaled, saying it was just feedback and maybe Anna could tone it down for the wedding. I told her flat out that Anna wasn't a doll to be dressed up, and if Emily had a problem, she should talk to me directly. A week later, Emily called. She was clearly nervous. She said she had been thinking about the wedding and wanted to have a more cohesive visual theme, and that she was worried about how Anna might stand out in photos. I asked her point blank, "Are you uninviting my wife?" She paused and said, "I think it's best if Anna doesn't come, just for the ceremony. She can come to the reception later, if she dresses more appropriately." I was stunned. I told her she was being unbelievably disrespectful, and that I would not attend a wedding where my wife wasn't welcome. She got defensive and said it wasn't personal. It was just about her vision for her big day. I told her she could have whatever vision she wanted, but not with my support. I then told her I was pulling the $10,000 and that Anna and I would not be attending at all. Cue to the meltdown. My parents called, furious. My mom said I was being petty and ruining Emily's wedding. My dad said I had made my point, but needed to grow up and still support family. Emily sent me a long message saying she was heartbroken and that I had blindsided her after promising to help. Tom even called me and said he didn't get involved in family stuff, but that I was messing with people's lives over a personal grudge. Anna was, of course, devastated. She told me I didn't need to do that for her and that she didn't want to be the reason for family drama. But I told her I wasn't going to let her be humiliated for being herself. Now, most of my family isn't speaking to me. A few cousins privately told me they think I did the right thing, but publicly, everyone's siding with Emily. Apparently, she's trying to rework the budget and may even downsize the whole event. I'm still angry. I feel like Anna was treated like a sideshow exhibit instead of a member of the family. But part of me wonders if I escalated things too far. Maybe I should have let it slide and just skipped the ceremony. I don't know. So, AITA for pulling the money and refusing to go to the wedding after my wife was uninvited. AITA for refusing to let my sister bring her emotional support horse to my wedding. Yeah, you read that right. I, 29F, am getting married this December to my fiancé Chris, 32M. We've been together for 5 years and finally decided to tie the knot. We're doing a cozy winter wedding at a historic inn in Vermont. Think snow, candlelight, fireplaces, hot cocoa bar, that kind of vibe. It's something I've dreamed of since I was a teenager. My younger sister, Haley, 26F, has always been eccentric. She was the horse girl in school and never really grew out of it. Like full-blown obsessed. She owns 3 horses, works as stable, and lives on this small hobby farm with her boyfriend. No judgment. It's her life, and she seems happy. But about a year ago, Haley got really into the idea of emotional support animals. I don't mean a dog or cat. I mean she registered one of her horses, Maple, as an emotional support animal. Now, From my understanding, ESA animals don't have the same legal access rights as service animals, but she still insists that Maple is her ESA and should be treated like a service animal. Here's where it gets messy. A few weeks ago, I was finalizing the guest list and meal options when Haley called me and said she had a small favor to ask. She wanted to bring Maple to the wedding. I laughed, thinking she was joking. She wasn't. She went into this whole speech about how she gets anxious in social situations, that Maple keeps her grounded, and that she needs her there. I told her point blank, absolutely not. The venue is indoors, the floors are 200-year-old hardwood, and there's zero way a horse is coming inside. Not to mention the fact that we're having 90 guests, many of whom are elderly, have allergies, or just wouldn't appreciate a horse walking around while they're eating their chicken marsala. She started crying and told me I was being discriminatory and ableist. I reminded her that ESA animals don't have the same legal standing as service animals and that, emotional needs or not, a horse isn't appropriate for an indoor wedding. Then she pivoted and said maybe Maple could stay outside the venue during the ceremony and reception. Again, no. It's December, in Vermont, below freezing. There's no barn or paddock there, just a parking lot and snow. I told her that wasn't going to work either. She hung up on me. Since then, my parents have both called me and asked if I could just compromise and let the horse be outside or maybe in the lobby during parts of the reception. I asked if they realized what they were asking, that it was a live animal in a historic inn with antique rugs, multiple fireplaces, and no animal facilities. My dad literally said, "Well, she's your only sister. Can't you just give her this one thing?" I said no. Chris is backing me up 100%. He said, if I wanted livestock at our wedding, we'd be having it in a barn. Haley hasn't spoken to me since. She's posted vague stuff on Instagram about family who doesn't support you and being punished for having needs. A few of her friends, who are also really into the ESA community, have commented things like, "You deserve better," and "animals over people any day." Now I'm getting messages from relatives asking what happened and why Haley's upset. Some are saying I should have just allowed it in some capacity so she could be there fully herself. My great aunt, who's helping fund part of the wedding, even hinted that I'm being elitist by not accommodating her. So now I feel like I'm being painted as this cold, uncaring bridezilla because I don't want a literal horse at my wedding. I just wanted a peaceful, cozy, beautiful winter wedding without animal hair, hay, or hoof prints. But now I'm starting to second-guess myself. Haley does have real anxiety. She's struggled with it since college, but I feel like this is unreasonable. AITA for not letting my sister bring her emotional support horse to my wedding. AITA for refusing to let my brother and his fiancé get married at my house after what they did at my wedding. This is a long one, but I need some objective opinions because my family is acting like I'm destroying everything over something that wasn't that serious. I, 29F, got married to my husband Liam, 31M, last year. We had the wedding at my family's lake house. It's technically my house now. My grandparents left it to me when they passed. It's been in our family for generations, and I'm very sentimental about it. My grandparents hosted every major family event there. Birthdays, reunions, anniversaries, and, yes, even weddings. I always knew I wanted to get married there, and when Liam proposed, it felt right. The wedding was beautiful. I spent months coordinating everything myself. I'm not rich, so I DIY'd a lot. The lake house has this gorgeous open lawn by the water where we set up the ceremony. My brother Jake, 27M, was my husband's best man, and his girlfriend, now fiancé, Harper, 25F, was there too. Now, here's where things started going south. I've always had a weird vibe from Harper. She's extremely attention-seeking, like the kind of person who turns every conversation into a story about herself. But whatever, she was my brother's girlfriend, and I wasn't going to start drama. During the wedding reception, things got odd. While Liam and I were doing our first dance, Harper accidentally walked right through the frame of the photographer and loudly laughed while making a TikTok. I asked her to stay off her phone for the rest of the night, and she rolled her eyes. But the worst part came later. Jake and Harper decided it would be hilarious to do a fake proposal during the reception. Yes, during my wedding. Jake got down on one knee in the middle of the dance floor. Harper screamed, and everyone turned to look. Then they both yelled, "Just kidding," and laughed. A few people awkwardly laughed along, but most of us were in shock. I was furious. I pulled Jake aside and told him it was wildly inappropriate. He shrugged and said, "Come on, it was funny. You're being uptight." Harper chimed in with, "Yeah, loosen up. It's just a joke." The next day, my mom told me to let it go, that Jake probably just got caught up in the excitement, and that it wasn't worth making a big deal about. Fast forward 10 months. Jake and Harper got officially engaged. Yay for them. I sent a polite congrats via text and didn't think much of it. Then, last month, Jake called and said they'd been thinking. They wanted to get married at the lake house, too. He said it's become a family tradition and that it would mean a lot to them. I was quiet for a moment, then said, "No, I'm not comfortable with that." Jake was confused and asked why. I told him, as calmly as I could, that I was still hurt by what they did at my wedding and didn't want to host them at the same place they disrespected. He blew up, said I was being childish, that it was just a prank, and that I needed to stop being so sensitive. He accused me of gatekeeping the house and said it wasn't fair for me to hoard family memories just because I happened to inherit it. I reminded him that I did inherit it, legally and fairly, and that I had every right to say no. He hung up on me. Cue the family drama. My mom and Ann have been calling me nonstop, saying I'm going to cause a permanent rift in the family over something that happened a year ago. My mom said Harper cried when she heard I said no. I don't know if those are real tears or TikTok tears, but okay. I told my mom I might reconsider if Jake and Harper gave me a sincere apology for what happened at my wedding. My mom said, "Oh, come on. You know Jake doesn't do apologies. That's just how he is." That's when I lost my temper a bit. I said, "Well, then I don't do wedding venues." Now everyone's acting like I'm some kind of villain for jeopardizing family harmony. For the record, I'm not forbidding them from getting married. I'm just saying they can't use my house, the one I pay to maintain, the one I spend every summer repairing and caring for, the one they treated like a joke. Liam is on my side, obviously, and a few friends have told me they'd be furious if someone pulled that stunt at their wedding. But now I'm being told I'm holding a grudge and punishing them for a moment of bad judgment. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to let them get married at the lake house. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos also. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.